I've been dying to talk about this. Recency bias is a cognitive bias that favors recent events over historic ones. Or in this case, you value new thing more than old thing. You're basically Andy going, I don't want to play with you anymore. In this video, I want to talk about recency bias, how people tend to overvalue characters doing initial banner, and how I go about judging a unit. This issue has been very obvious for a long while now, ever since we gotten the patch where we replaced the older DPS with the newer ones. Sele was the best until Jingyuan came out, Jingyuan was the best until Blade came out, Blade was the best until Imbibitor Lune came out, and so on. And the way the endgame is designed makes this issue a lot worse. When new characters are released, the content are always tailor-made so that they feel better to use, even at low investment. This makes it so people tend to overvalue characters on their initial release. A great example of this is Acheron. Back when she was out, people say that you don't need to pull her light cone because it barely makes a difference and you don't get that much more ults with it anyway. But nowadays, she's barely playable without her key investments, which is her Sig, Jiaoqiu, maybe their Eidolons. In reality, at least in my opinion, the damage difference is definitely significant just from screenshot number to screenshot number, but also the difference in ult frequency back then was skewed by players actually trying to cover for the lack of signature. Not to mention, the MOC buff back then, they basically gave you a stack that her signature would have given you anyway. And if you did have her signature, you wouldn't get the additional stack because of how her passive works. Maybe I'm wrong, you guys can let me know in the comments. Now, I get it. There are some people who say that, oh, you don't need this, you don't need that, in order to make other people don't feel pressured into pulling for things they don't want to, or even worse, wasting money. But IRL money aside, the problem with this is you end up giving the false idea that the character is perfectly fine and long-lasting just the way they are, when in reality, you do have to beef them up over time or you have to replace them. There's a saying going around right now that's like, good enough isn't good enough anymore. But the thing is, the good enough back then was never actually good enough. You're just basically carried by game design. It's like this. When you get a character on a release, you get them at level 50, but the content is set to be at level 1. And during this point, people say, oh my god, this character is broken! Or, you don't need to pull for anything else. But what people tend to forget is that the content will eventually level up as well. So while you're still stuck at level 50, the content will already be at level 100. So how should we judge a unit? In my opinion, the simple way to go about it is just see how they do after their banner is gone, and look for how they are when the situation isn't the best for them. Ideally, in their worst scenario. How does Sele feel when she can't trigger Resurgence because there's only one enemy? How does Aventurine feel when he doesn't get to spam his follow-ups to refresh his shield? How does Raba feel when her allies aren't able to help her with breaking toughness bars? And when you're looking at these stress tests, you have to realize how much effort the unit is actually putting into the run. For example, if you're fighting Hule and you're bringing Yunli, Robin, Sparkle, Blade, if the run went well, does that mean Blade is good? Something that I like to keep in mind when I judge specifically DPSs, I don't look for how much damage they can do. Instead, I look for how they do damage. Because I can easily increase damage output with vertical investment, but if the way they deal damage is unreliable at base, then it's gonna be difficult even if I vertical invest in them. While it may seem dumb to test units in their worst scenarios, it's gonna show how well they can actually adapt to various situations and how they truly are when the content isn't shield for them anymore. Side note, this is why I think Firefly is one of the most safe long-term pulls, especially to vertical invest in. The main thing is, I just wish people would look beyond the hype of a character release when actually trying to judge them. And that's about it. Real quick, the Sele video surpassed 1,000 views, which I think is insane. It's my personal best so far. I also got a handful of new subscribers. To some people, they're not much, but I genuinely appreciate every single one. I'm trying to make this YouTube thing work, so every little baby steps count. Thank you everyone so much. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like, comment down your thoughts, feedbacks are greatly appreciated, and I'll be reading through them. If you want to see more of me, consider hitting the subscribe button, it's free. I'll be doing more of these videos in the future, even for other games. Now take a sip of water and have a good day.